What crime is victimless? In Canada, it's illegal to practice fake witchcraft. That being said, it is perfectly legal to practice real witchcraft. You'd better produce some genuine hocus pocus. Or it's off to the slammer. Voodoo's frantically. This is so fucking funny. Rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing reminds me of how there's a town in CA that has a law making the detonation of nuclear weapons within the township's boundaries illegal. Not creation of, distribution of, nor transportation of nuclear weapons, only their detonation. Not quite sure how they expect to enforce that law. Angry cop ghost tapping his foot and glaring at the ghost perpetrator. If a tree falls in a forest, but the entire forest is evaporated in an instant, did the tree leave a dent in what used to be the ground? I'm not practicing fake witchcraft. I just have performance issues. It's very normal. Many wizards experience it from time to time. Fake witchcraft is a fraud while real one isn't. Pretty straightforward approach. It is technically illegal to eat fried chicken with a fork in Gainesville, GA. I love dumb laws. It's illegal in Hartford, Connecticut to kiss your wife in public on a Sunday. Thanks, Puritans. Deciding to sleep in your car because you are too drunk to drive back home. I got a DUI for this. It was winter and I turned the heat on. Even though the handbrake was up and my seat was reclined, they said once you turn the key, it's a DUI. My lawyer said I would have been better off just driving home because I live 10 minutes away and it was 4 a.m. I never have, never would, and never will drive drunk. Yeah, this bugs me. This is a perfect example of the spirit of the law being ignored, and everything done by the book. Anyone sane would know when someone doesn't plan on driving off, and using the heater is better than risking hypothermia or anything like that. It's like I said in another comment. I heard of people that had their interior covered with an air mattress and running the heater. That's still illegal, and I heard of people actually getting into trouble because of it. It's so stupid. They thought, if we don't follow the laws, we're no better than the animals in the forest. But they didn't think, but are acting like robots? Criminal defense lawyer here. The idea is that you're drunk and the car didn't get there by itself. But I've one where the jury believed that my guy got into the car and turned on the heat to sleep it off and didn't drive anywhere. However, that's a lot harder to argue if the car is in a random place, not by the bar. That's fucking dumb. Holy respect for doing the right thing. If you turn the car on then get in the passenger seat or the back seat, is it still a DUI? It shouldn't be. But in many places, yes. Some places it's even a DUI charge if you're asleep in the driver's seat with the key in the ignition or nearby if it's a push start. Not just if you're in the driver's seat, if you're in the car at all. I got a DUI when I was in college. Had to take a class for it, and one of the guys in there went to the same school as me, and this is exactly what happened to him. Got drunk at a party and forgot or lost the keycard to his dorm building, so he went and crashed in the back seat of his car in the school parking lot. Because his keys were in the car, they arrested him and gave him a DUI. Felt pretty bad for the guy that he has to have that on his record now. Had a mate get charged with DIC for entering his car to get some items out as he was staying over since we were drinking. Cop just happened to be driving by and spotted him stumbling across the road to his car and did him. Was a massive fucking issue to sort out. He almost lost his job over it. License was automatically suspended until court, etc. When it finally went to court 4 months later, the judge, who thankfully had common sense, threw the case out. Currently fighting a DUI case that stemmed from almost this exact same situation, except it happened in my own damn driveway. I'm due in court next month, so we'll see how it goes in my case. Hoping I get the same outcome as your friend, but I blew a .22, so it looks particularly bad just based on the numbers, even though I was at home and didn't drive at all after I started drinking. Honestly, get yourself a lawyer, preferably one that specializes in drink/drive cases, and fight it. But yeah, hopefully you'll get a judge that's reasonable. Also, being done for it while being on your own property is particularly shitty. How about a guy getting a DUI going home in his electric wheelchair? Guess he should have dragged his ass home. Yeah, I was gonna say this, people have been in the back seat. It's fucking stupid. Hell, my friend's dad got arrested when he was sitting in the bed of his truck on the open tailgate waiting for his friends to come pick him up because his truck was broken down. Didn't matter. Key was in the ignition. He was in the woods on a back road in the middle of nowhere when suddenly, cop. He had a long wait to go, so of course he decided to drink the beer he had just bought to drink with said friends while he was waiting. Great guy, though. I will always be grateful for my bestie's mom and dad. He took it like a champ, at least. Okay, sounds like sleeping in the car is classified a DUI because I allegedly had intent to drive. So tell me, Your Honor, would it be illegal for me to sleep on the car? On the ground next to the car? In the trunk? In a tent next to the car? In a house next to the car? Where exactly is the line that eliminates the suspicion that I had intent to drive? Maybe I can't even drink if I have a driver's license or own a car at all. Tfo with this BS. Car was in your driveway while you were sleeping in your bedroom. You clearly intended to drive. What a catch-22. Can't get in your car unless you have your keys. But you can't have your keys if you want to sleep in your car. Almost happened to my friend once. Had too much to drink at a bar. It was winter, so they were sleeping it off in their car with the engine running so they could have the heat on. In their eyes, and mine too, they were doing the right and safe thing. They basically had to beg the cop to not give them a ticket for a DUI, even if you're in the back seat with the keys in your pocket. It's the intent to drive under influence. My sister manages a pub. She has a rule that she takes their keys off they want to sleep in the back of their car, so they can't get charged. Or living in your car. Most places don't allow overnight parking. These laws ironically might endanger the public because some drunk people might opt to risk driving home rather than sleep it off. They were likely written because of emotional outrage. So fucking true. It's arguably so victimless you're saving lives. In college I decided to walk home since I couldn't drive and was afraid I would get a DUI if I slept in my car. I was arrested for drunk in public and spent the night in jail. The officer who arrested me told me I was way over the legal limit. I was like, yeah, that's why my car is at the bar. I didn't have enough money for a cab and everyone I knew leaving was drunk and I didn't want to get in a car with them, so I was the one arrested. I've told every employer the story with no issues. Even had to tell the story while getting a security clearance. In California it is illegal to eat a frog that died during a jumping contest. This is a real law on the books. Not a technicality. Not something that's been officially overruled. The body must be destroyed. I don't think you will get in any trouble though. The frog is dead anyways. There are frog jumping contests in California. If there were and a frog were to die during one, it would be illegal to eat. There is an entire festival. In similarly surprising animal laws. In the UK there is a crime of concealing a reptile. Look out, he's got a gecko. Bang bang bang, sound of bonking them with a stick because UK cops don't get guns I think. Downloading ROMs of obsolete and or unavailable games. Agree. If I can't buy a game brand new from popular storefronts because it's delisted then it's fair game. R/abandonware is great for this. Going to be interesting to see if anything lands in court with the new release of the Commodore 64. Tons of material that has been abandoned for decades suddenly has a platform again. Many if not most of the companies that held the IP for those games are long dead. Wouldn't shock me at all to see long ignored rights reasserted just to squeeze a few dollars out of 40-year-old software. Someone likely owns those rights. And they want their pennies. Not true. It hurts Nintendo's feelings. Ages ago, I lived in a city that had a clown on roller skates that would skate around the downtown area waving at people and making balloon animals. He got on the news because he was fined for putting change into parking meters that were about to expire. Apparently that's a crime. He was known as Mr. Twister. Thankfully, it looks like that law was changed. Owning multiple vibrators. In 2003 Texas passed a law that made it illegal to own 6 or more vibrators or dildos. They're not mine. I'm just holding them for a friend. I really want to know who has the job of going around checking ownership. This dildo law was passed as a way to ban parties where women sell sex toys to other women, which were, or maybe still are, a thing. So really uncomfortable garage sale I went to with my mom about 15 years ago. This 70-ish-year-old woman had a garage sale and we stopped. Apparently in the 1970s she had sex toy parties where she sold sex toys to other people. She had a ton of NOS sex toys just on tables in her yard. 1970s packages with cartoony illustrations all over them. I don't want to go sex toy shopping with my mom. You kind of have to wonder if some jerk tries to use something like that in divorce proceedings. Your Honor, she had 7 dildos. Might I remind you sir these are matrimonial dildos, thus it's split amongst the couple. At Texas Tech University, maybe others, it is, or was, illegal for girls to live in the sorority houses because of antiquated brothel laws. Yet, I can drive around with 50 loaded guns in duffel bags like the Matrix. Piracy of video games and movies that cannot be bought through legal means anymore. Downloading a car. Jaywalking in low traffic areas. It's not a crime in lots of countries. It amazes me that jaywalking even exists as a concept, let alone that it's an offense. Here in the UK you can cross the road wherever you want. It's just called crossing the road. It only exists as a crime because the auto industry lobbied to place the responsibility for pedestrian deaths on pedestrians. And insurance companies as well. Too many people were getting hit. Sleeping in your car in a park. Eating a succulent Chinese meal. I'm going to be forever amazed that this moment of Australian history has gone viral. I see you know your judo well. Get your hand off my penis. Stealing food that a supermarket is throwing away because it's reached its sell-by date. Not only is that date arbitrary and not representative of the food's edibility, food waste that ends up in landfills creates extra methane that fucks up the atmosphere. It's not just victimless. It's beneficial to society. Not all heroes wear capes. Rescues pack of Ritz crackers from dumpster. I work in a public school. I supervise the kids at lunch. Every school lunch comes with a piece of fruit, whether the kid wants it or not. I grabbed 2 uneaten apples off trays kids were throwing out, as in the kids had finished, and were actively throwing the stuff in the trash. Almost lost my job for taking trash. In France, you can't call a pig Napoleon. The pig would be the victim in that case. Pirating Nintendo games that will never be re-released on modem consoles. Smoking your own homegrown weed. Not true. It's devastating to the people who have to listen to you talk about how Firefly should have gotten another season for 2 hours. Hey, man, that's old hat. We want a reboot of Buck Rogers in the 25th century by the same people who did Battlestar Galactica. Jaywalking. Especially late at night when there are no cars on the road. It's such a weird law looking at it from the outside. I could never imagine not being able to cross wherever I want/need. Loitering. Sometimes people just stand around. I got up loitering and prowling at night, citation while waiting for a tow truck. In the UK, it's illegal to be drunk in a pub. Being drunk in public is technically illegal in most places. Hey, I got drunk in a bar. Private property, I was thrown into public. It's also illegal to sell alcohol to someone who's drunk. Edit, in a pub. I've been absolutely shit-housed in pubs in the UK and never had a problem. Is it just one of those laws that are archaic and not enforced? Probably something that only gets enforced if you're being problematic. But it's probably one of those laws that has to be in place so they can actually do something about drunken idiots, but don't enforce it if you're just drunk and being normal. Without that law, it's entirely likely they can't do anything because there is no grounds on which the authorities can stand. Homosexuality. In countries where it is criminalized. I made a web interface which perfectly mimics a major sport league's ticket app. I buy the cheapest ticket I can find to get inside the stadium, but the ushers just look at your ticket. They don't scan it again, so to get into any section I want to sit in just requires a ticket that looks real. As long as it has the little moving bits and a QR code that changes. They don't know any better. It worked flawlessly 40+ times this season. I just check for unsold premium seats before the game starts and go sit in one. Mizzou football doesn't check where you sit. In protest of them not giving student discounts, I buy the cheapest possible seat and then go sit in the inflated price student section. Dude, you're a freaking genius. Not installing a spittoon. Yet more from Texas. In El Paso, there's an old, still on the books law that mandates spittoons in public places such as churches, assembly halls, hotels, banks. Printing your own Magic the Gathering cards, aka proxies. Most of the cards are not actively being sold by Wizards of the Coast anymore, let alone being printed, so all you can do is buy them for the street price, which for some cards is absolutely bonkers. Printing them to play them privately in your playgroup will not harm anyone. This is not against the law. It just prevents you from playing officially sanctioned events. At most, using their artwork could be a copyright violation, but only if doing so gained you money. Using a VPN to avoid Keir Starmer's ID checks. Sleeping while homeless. Growing shrooms. Watching live TV while not paying the BBC license fee. British people will understand. You got a license fare that Doctor Who episode, mate? Pirating media that isn't being sold anymore. Doing drugs in the privacy of your own home. Being gay, being an apostate, etc. Feeding the homeless. Giving water to those who need. Believe it or not, Republicans have made these crimes actually consensual sex work. No pimps. No trafficking, just an adult who likes to fuck. And select members of a grateful public. Sleeping in car. Tearing the tag off of a mattress. They changed wording. Pretty soon this joke will not be understood. Digital copies for personal use. Solely as it relates to the 50-year war on drugs, I'm going with personal drug use. We should not be jailing casual drug users, and we should be spending the money used for incarceration and drug enforcement on clinics and education for habitual drug users/addicts. I'll probably be downvoted for this, but America has wasted literally trillions of dollars on the failed war on drugs. The war on drugs didn't fail. It did exactly what it was intended to do, fill for-profit prisons and give a veneer of law and order to institutional racism and classism. I'd like to congratulate drugs on winning the war on drugs. Scandinavian model for the win. There's a famous long-term study that was done by the state of California, known as CalData, that showed for every $1 the state spends on rehab and drug intervention programs, they save $2 on arrests, prosecution costs, prison costs, etc. It's been shown by other similar studies, time and time again, that investing in social welfare programs saves money in the long term. Jaywalking, but specifically when the road is clear. Blasphemy. Obviously only in the backwards countries where it is a crime. Existing in public while homeless. That's just so wrong. What the hell are they supposed to do? Drunk sleeping in a parked car in an empty parking lot. Collecting rainwater on your own property is illegal in a lot of places. The government of course is allowed to do it and then sell it back to you though. There's actually some pretty good reasons. One being the fact that if it isn't done properly, it can be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. It also affects the natural water cycle if it's done too much. There are more, but I don't feel like looking it up and can't remember what else. The only time I've ever heard it enforced was when a guy's rain barrel was larger than an Olympic-sized pool. It'd almost never be enforced for a small-scale setup like a rain barrel or similar. The issue with this is if it were made legal, it'd be abused, and if too many people abuse it, it can have devastating ecological impacts as rainwater runoff no longer reaches streams and rivers and can drop water levels dramatically. Think of farmers/ranchers who would collect said rainwater for irrigation and livestock purposes. We already have an issue with them taking more water than they should, and it causes serious problems. Us and our environment are the victims. The thing about this, while it sounds unreasonable, is that the people who have actually been fined for this have usually constructed a dam and built a reservoir on their property, affecting the flow of water to residents and ecosystems downstream, as well as putting them at risk of flood. Banning the collection of rainwater just off your roof is totally bullshit though. Depending on your location, the rainwater isn't that clean, and if you don't do water collection right, you're in real danger of contamination, metals, bacteria. The victim could easily be you or your family, though I suppose that's a gray area to engage yourself. You're not creating victims outside your household. That's for the water table, not for no reason. Companies would get up to some bullshit if you let them. The main problem here is collecting rainwater that may affect the environment. Barrels of it will make most LEO look the other way, but if you somehow have 5 acres of rainwater for argument's sake, that is punishable. Pirating/emulating games that are no longer available for purchase. My child fell asleep on the drive home. In an effort to let them sleep, I sat in the car, in my driveway with the car and a AC running, while watching football drinking a beer. I believe I was technically violating the DWI laws in my state. In Kentucky, carrying an ice cream cone in your back pocket is illegal. Why? Back in the day, people found a clever way to legally steal horses. Stick an ice cream cone on your back pocket and the horse will follow you to your farm. Now you have a horse. Consensual sex work. I thought you meant consensual sex at work and thought it's illegal? Blasphemy. Making a U-turn at a red light at 3 a.m. when no one's around. I did this and a convenient cop came out of nowhere and pulled me over and gave me a ticket. I'm the world's unluckiest person. This exact situation. 1 a.m. U-turn at a red light. Dumpster diving. I get the reason behind it for shops. Like people that work there could throw out perfectly good items by accident, just so friends would wait to pick them out of the dumpster. But come on, throwing away edible food is one of the worst things to witness. I just hate it so much. When at the same time, there are hungry people. Yeah. I always hated doing it when I worked retail because after they replaced the fridge with a better one, the damn thing would go out every few months and we'd have to toss so much food. Picking a psychedelic mushroom fresh from the earth and consuming it. Giving water to people who are standing in line to vote. Evity crime can be victimless if you make the victim disappear. Tap's head. Reading Ubanda books. Where is this? Surely it exists somewhere, but I don't think it's illegal to read anything in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong. Growing weed. I have to spend a significant amount of money every year to get hemp plants removed from my property. It keeps coming back like, a weed. Defrauding an American health insurance company, unless in so doing it results in patient harm. So, like a hospital diverting medication explicitly prescribed for a patient that was shipped to said hospital by the insurer for the use of the subscriber. Because that happened to me. For a full year. I got ripped off and lied to and undermedicated for migraine headaches, and my insurer was getting billed for and shipping medication that I didn't receive. Probably about 50% got diverted by the hospital. I was having non-stop migraines for a full GD year because of their theft. I have really big feelings about that. Let's just say I'm not a fan of medical insurers or the vast majority of American medical providers at this point. Awful lot of actual medical providers are as predatory and parasitic as the insurers themselves. Especially big hospital systems. Even when they're allegedly research hospitals and also allegedly not-for-profit. Handling a fish suspiciously. Using drugs on private property, your property of course. Drinking in public. Different law than public intoxication. Hurts nobody. Trespassing. If you don't fuck with anything or steal anything. In my younger days, I would break into schools and businesses, theme parks and stadiums. Never messed with anything, never stole anything. Just liked the quiet and deadness of places that were usually full of life. It relaxes me. Edit. Never actually broke into anything. Usually would get in by getting on the roof and finding an unlocked janitor hatch. They always leave one unlocked. 4 theme parks. It was usually a fence or wall I would have to climb over. Stadiums tend to have an unlocked door or 2. Jaywalking. Some places it's a crime to collect rainwater. Prostitution. A deal between 2 consenting adults shouldn't warrant any crime or jail time. I'd rather the guy go nail a hooker rather than go shoot something up because he can't get laid and needs a release. I like the implication that he would be like, well, I can't do this illegal thing because it's illegal, but this other illegal thing is fine. Jerk off? Nah. Meth. Punching someone in the dark. I had to scroll way too far down to find this. There it is. It's the kind I like. Ha! Ha! Moonshine. If you make moonshine the wrong way, it isn't victimless. It's actually really easy to fuck up. But sunshine is legal? What a weird country. Killing Ian Watkins. Pirating movies/games that aren't available on streaming or download. Piracy. Of media that is no longer supported. Not sold in stores. Not on any big streaming services, just really hard to find. Primarily old retro games, but lots of movies qualify here as well. Up until it was put on Netflix. Try finding a way to watch 28 Days Later for example. If it's media that isn't supported anymore, pirating it is actively helping to keep that media alive. Technically, sex with a corpse. But I've taken your moral argument from 0 to 100 faster than anyone wanted. Their family, friends, and anyone who has to process that crime scene might disagree. Convincing the Chipotle guy to give me extra meat with no extra charge. Clearing everyone's debts and redistributing billions upon billions of individuals' wealth to people equally. The ending of Mr. Robot basically. Luigi made net negative victims if that counts. It's probably been said already, but downloading old TV shows that aren't shown anywhere anymore. Growing weed. Blasphemy. Growing your own weed. It's legal in New York, but still federally illegal in the US. Downloading a car. Internet piracy of media that is no longer available for purchase. Camping on unused privately owned land. Possession of drugs. Loitering. Soliciting. Being homeless. Jaywalking when no cars are out. Blasphemy, in places that have laws against it. Prostitution and blasphemy. Pirating games. If buying isn't owning. Pirating isn't stealing. Stop killing games. Jaywalking. Placing an item in someone's mailbox, with their permission. This is a federal crime in the United States. Growing weed for personal consumption. Digital piracy. Running out of time on a parking meter? Like the real crime should be having to pay for parking in the first place. Ignoring a red light when there's no traffic or pedestrians. Sleeping off the alcohol in your system in your car after a long night of drinking. Taxing billionaires their fair share. Oh wait, we don't do that. Not having a TV license. Hello everyone in the UK. Going into foot. Benning at night and walking to a range and stealing an M4/SAW/M240B from a sleeping trainee. Growing your own weed. Buying drugs. Blasphemy. Pretty much any crime where the only victim is the state. A single person with no dependents smoking weed in their off time without driving. Defending yourself without taking into careful consideration how badly you're going to hurt your attacker. And if the defense is truly warranted. After all, he might be punching you in the face. But do you really need to reach back and grab that knife to get him to stop? Take a moment to contemplate the situation while your eye sockets are getting caved in. It's a victimless in that an attacker who is using violence against you cannot be construed as a victim. Jaywalking. 9 out of 10 times, it's completely harmless. And poses no threat to anyone. Look both ways and go. Blasphemy. Piracy. Jaywalking. Stealing food out of a dumpster behind a restaurant, I guess. Pirating a movie. Dancing on a specific Christian holiday. Nobody cares, nowadays it's more about bigger events. But still, blasphemy. Media piracy. You don't steal anything, you just copy a file. Public defecation. Reading banned books. Buying and smoking weed. Drugs. Cops routinely harass truck drivers that are laid over at truck stops. They send plainclothes into restraints/bars to eyeball the drivers, then when the drivers go back to their truck to go to sleep in the bunk they come and roust them in the night. Seen it plenty of times at Quad Cities Kyneton and Youngstown. Most, though not all, fashion crimes. Taking drugs. Stealing from Walmart. My Nana used to rent DVDs from Blockbuster and burn them onto her own blank DVDs. We literally had hundreds of movies. She didn't sell them or anything. And she paid for the Blockbuster rentals, so I say victimless. In Texas, there's a law against owning more than 6 dildos. Define your terms. Downloading a movie in 2025 when Netflix, Hulu, and Max all require separate subscriptions. Sorry, HBO. I'm not buying another streaming service to watch one thing. Doesn't make it victimless. Doesn't qualify. No matter how much you don't want to pay for content. Adult acts between consenting adults. Otherwise, all the victimless crimes assume the perpetrator as the victim. E.g. seatbelt violations. Not wearing your seatbelt isn't necessarily a victimless crime. A human body that's not strapped in will become a meat missile in an accident, which can cause injuries to anyone in the vicinity of the accident. I don't agree the seatbelt violation counts because if you get in a car accident and the person next to you isn't wearing a belt, they can fuck you up. They become a flying meat sack and I don't want no part of that. I hate that I've seen videos of this. Posting certain memes online, which is currently having thousands of people arrested in the UK. Extra bad timing as well considering that the UK is under process in establishing a national digital ID at the current moment. Blasphemy. Carrying a salmon suspiciously is apparently illegal in the UK. Smoking weed. Consensual prostitution. Speeding in itself. I don't mean driving faster than is safe, but simply driving faster than the posted speed limit. Prostitution. Homelessness. I mean, the victim of that crime is the homeless person. Leaving trash can on the curb after 6 p.m. on trash day, it's a local law with a repeatable and increasing fine. The only people who care about the trash can being there are most likely to drive into it by accident or on purpose. Collecting rainwater. That time I told the self-checkout machine I only had 1 donut when I clearly had 2. The machine just stared. It knew. We had an understanding. Consensual oral sex between adults, male or female. From Wikipedia. Most sodomy laws in the United States made both oral sex and anal sex illegal. As of 2023, a total of 12 states had not repealed their sodomy laws. 9 of these state laws make both heterosexual and homosexual sodomy illegal. Florida, 13. Georgia, 14. Louisiana, 15. Massachusetts, 16. Michigan, 17. Mississippi, 18. North Carolina, 19. Oklahoma, 20. South Carolina, 21. Edit. I should add that, while these laws are still on the books, they are currently not enforceable because a Supreme Court decision declared that they are unconstitutional. You know, like Roe v. Wade protected abortion. They're just waiting in the wings, in case the Supreme Court ever changes its mind, but that could never happen. Could it? Public nudity, jaywalking, doing drugs, drinking a beer in a public place where alcohol consumption is banned, incest between 2 adults, stealing from a thief, prostitution where trafficking is not involved, sneaking a bottle of water into a plane, loitering. Even if the police have grounds to believe you are loitering for nefarious purposes, the act of loitering itself is technically victimless. And yet it is forbidden under certain circumstances, depends on the jurisdiction. Stealing from corporations, blasphemy. Crazy that many countries still have this on the books. Pulling through a parking stall, supporting Tottenham Hotspur, you're the victim. Stealing from large corporations, taking your drink to the outdoor smoking area, pot. This is a great topic that gets into a lot of gray area. If you're interested, I'd suggest one of my favorite books of all time, Ain't Nobody's Business If I Do by Peter McWilliams. It's a book about consensual crime laws, and how we should draw the line of deciding if something is victimless enough to not outlaw it. He was a brilliant man who died from AIDS and cancer because he got arrested for growing weed for personal use, and could no longer access it from prison. Robbing a bank, piracy. People commit plenty of fashion crimes all perfectly legally, unfortunately rolling on the floor laughing shorts necktie scarf. Stealing from large corporations, jaywalking when no cars are nearby, shoplifting from Walmart, digital piracy, like a copy of an MP3, keeping the change when I go to the store, tearing content labels off of cushions, loitering, responsibly drinking alcohol in public. Many U.S. states, counties, and municipal governments have laws or ordinances on drinking from open alcoholic containers in public spaces. It's to prevent disorderly conduct and other petty crimes from occurring because of people under the influence. However, if you enjoy your drinks responsibly and don't get hammered, it's a completely victimless crime. Not reporting cash under the table work income for taxes. You probably did this and didn't even realize it. It's not illegal to form a casual agreement with a person or small organization to do some casual contracted work, shoveling snow, mowing lawns, cleaning gutters, officiating youth sports, raking leaves, etc. What is illegal is to not report it as taxable income, but I doubt any teenager got $25 to shovel their neighbor's driveway ever filed that to the IRS. And the IRS probably doesn't care about the $1 they'll get from it. Pirating Diablo 3, Eternal Collection, Switch ROM and emulating it on PC to play at 250% speed, with controller support. Related, modifying single-player games so I can play at 140 to 200% speed. Some video games are impossibly slow. I can't play any Pokemon or Borderlands game at native speed. Am I the victim or the crime? Piracy. In the UK. Weed you've grown yourself. In a small town in Georgia, it's illegal to have an ice cream cone in your back pocket on Sunday. Dumpster diving. In Alaska, intentional waste of a moose is a Class A misdemeanor. I guess technically the moose counts as a victim, but I still think that's the most violently Alaskan law we have up here. Stealing from Walmart. A lot of people have mentioned homegrown drugs, which I get. I would love my own garden patch of weed and shrooms. But also just growing food in general in your home/on your property can sometimes be really hard to do without breaking some weird code. Feeding the homeless. Corporate theft? Like, is Target going to suffer because someone shoplifted a bottle of soap? At a certain point, when a company is that large, shoplifting is a rounding error. Killing a tyrant? Trespassing? For a long time. In the US, though, an attempted suicide would get you arrested. I read a story of a guy who was arrested for it in the 1930s in CA. The logic was it's attempted self-murder and it caused trauma to others who knew you or found you. When it changed, but could you imagine? Salmon Act 1986. It's illegal to handle a salmon suspiciously. Jaywalking. Punching someone in the dark. Generally, that's the historical basis for misdemeanors versus felonies. Misdemeanor meant administrative violation versus a crime with a victim. That's obviously drifted. But today lots of victimless crimes are those whereby an administrative rule has been violated, e.g., speeding, sleeping in cars, public drunkenness,